Welcome everyone to week number 65 of the Tesla Beat podcast. We have our regular hosts, Joe, AI influencer number 42. He was not included this past week in the Times Magazine. He was snubbed again, as as per usual. And then, of course, we have Brian on the road, and he is taking his precious time to be here on the podcast as he's in transit and traveling to a couple of things which he can share in a little bit. And then we have Hans, who is probably being watched right now. He's had some fairly nice things to say about our government and the CIA this past week. But thank you guys for joining. How are you guys doing?
I'm doing good. Busy as always on the road. I'm up in Vancouver, BC for the Electrify Everything show from Fully Charged. It's going to be a big one. Sandy Monroe's talking today. Dr. Know-It-All is going to be here. Josh West has flown out for the event. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Cool.
Yeah, definitely feeling jealous.
Yeah, that's man. Yeah, that's crazy.
Well, awesome. Let's get into it. So the stock has rallied a little bit. Thank you to Fred selling all of his shares. We were up 5% yesterday because he sold his shares, and I think it made investors more bullish. I know it made me more bullish to hopefully stop hearing his whining. Sorry. Him and I are good friends. I send him an annual invite every year to the takeover. But either way, it's up to 220 and 97 cents. So it's rallied about probably $10, $11 over the past week. And we obviously this week had some pretty big news. I mean, I was actually pretty shocked. I think this is one of the first times I've seen the AI team just drop hey, here's literally our roadmap for the next 3 months. So I'm going to just walk us through what was shared. And then I think we can just go through how each one of our panelists, what they thought of the release overall. And then more importantly, maybe what's sticking out to them. But overall, the AI team release. So this is some of the things that they're expecting to accomplish in September. FSD 12.5.2 is going to be 3 times improved miles between necessary interventions. Also, 2, it looks like for our AI3 computers, they're going to be launching that for 12.5.2. AS is finally here. I think Omar actually reposted something that Elon had responded to me 2 years ago about AS coming, and it finally is here. So hopefully you can get your AS actually smart summon. And then we have Cybertruck Auto Park. I got the park assist. The visualization is really good. It's still a little bit, I think it still is, what's the word? It's still giving a lot of alerts that are, it's a little bit too close, even though you're not as close. So it still has some work, but potentially Cybertruck Auto Park is coming. Eye tracking with sunglasses, end-to-end network on highway, and Cybertruck FSD. That's my favorite thing that I'm looking for on this list. In October, we have unpark, park, and reverse in FSD. That's going to be crazy. V13 with 6x improved miles between necessary interventions. And then this is some other big stuff. Hopefully, our friends in China and Europe can finally get FSD pending regulatory approval. So it sounds like, we're going to see what the big reveal is on 10/10, but hopefully that can really pave the way for this. And then just some other quick things. It looks like FSD for right-handed markets is late Q1 or Q2, again, pending regulatory approval. And so I think, again, a lot happening that in the next 3 months from an FSD perspective. But I think what's the panel? I'm going to put it out to the panel on your thoughts on when all of this information dropped, and let me know if you want me to bring this back up so you can kind of poke on what you like. But what were your thoughts on when you heard or when you saw this post?
Well, I'll go first because my thoughts are very brief. This is such a compressed timeline. It's going to happen so quickly that we don't really have to think about it much, and we don't get to think about it much. These things are already happening. The first step starting to roll out, we're seeing it roll out. I did get, of course, the big disappointment, the false hope when I saw I had an update pending, but it was 12.5.2, not 3. But that means I have to wait a whole week. Oh, no. This is going to unfold very quickly, and either it's going to happen or it's not. This is a timeline we haven't seen them give before, not like this, so it'll at least give us some opportunity to determine how much credibility to have to give their future announcements of the same kind.
Yeah, I will say real quick before Hans goes that I'm really impressed with the AI team for being able to put out this information. You know, you get a lot of stuff that's Elon specific, and he'll say all these things, and people kind of hang on his words for all this stuff. But then it's like, that didn't quite come through. This is actually not like a hopeful timeline. This is like what they actually plan on doing. And, you know, I mean, it's not like one of those motivational things that he puts out like, and we're going to do this in 2 weeks. And it's like, what? We have 2 weeks? But I think it's really cool. Like you said, they haven't done this before, but to give a roadmap like this is pretty awesome. They should do it more often.
So my impression is that it kind of is one of those motivational things, but not necessarily at the level of, you know, an Elon 2-week timeline. I think what we're seeing, that everything that was on that list before the Q1 stuff, so everything that was included for September and October, is all stuff that is slated for demo at the 1010 event. And so we may not necessarily see some of the, you know, version 13 things or some of the functionality, you know, the reverse in FSD and parking and all that rolled out wide to customers in October, but it will be rolled out to some vehicles, and they will be able to do whatever demo that they want to do on 1010 with those key pieces of technology, because I do think that all of those things are fundamental building blocks to the presentation that we should expect to see in October.
Yeah, I thought it was I mean, obviously we know Tesla is very much thinking like about the robotaxi event that's happening. They're also, you know, as we've seen in the past year, they're making this huge focus as far as storytelling about AI and really FSD and autonomy. And so I thought it was, you know, really timely. I mean, as we know, Tesla makes moves with intention. And so I thought it was really timely that they would post literally this whole, and it's pretty detailed. It's not like, you know, and hopefully, again, I mean, I think the biggest call outs here are just that like FSD in Europe and China, honestly, it's like that's all. I mean, China's probably going to happen even before Europe. Europe is a complete regulatory mess, to be honest. Love you guys in Europe who follow us, but you pretty much, it's hard to get anything past there. So it's yeah, so I thought it was, you know, again, I thought it was very timely, and I think hopefully, you know, this is going to be something that if Tesla delays some of the stuff, people can revert back to. And so, but yeah, I'm looking forward to this. Again, the biggest things for me, it's going to be looking at the Cybertruck updates. It'll be interesting, the eye tracking with sunglasses. That's been one thing that people have been able to avoid, like paying attention, because they're literally looking at their phone with their sunglasses. But I wonder how they're going to tackle that. I don't know. So it's, yeah, it'll be interesting. And then I'm just happy too. I think a lot of our hardware 3 owners have been feeling like they've been missing out. So I'm glad that Tesla continues to put out updates for them as well. Again, I'm not completely sure on, like, you know, why there were delays, especially when, you know, a lot more people are on the hardware 3 than not necessarily a huge amount more than hardware 4, just because the hardware 4 cars are ramping now, especially as they go out. But yeah, this was a big update. They were very specific in what they are laying out. So I thought that was helpful, at least to kind of look forward to something, or like what to expect next. Right. So yeah, so I'm pretty excited about it. Any other thoughts? Otherwise, we will carry on. Cool. So the next thing we have is, dude, Norway, like just knocking it out of the park, from baseball terms. But literally 95% of the market share in August, it's a new world record, is all electric cars, EVs. I think what do they say? So goes Norway, so goes the world. So this is a huge accomplishment, and I think that probably by in the next couple of years, these guys can be 100% electric. And again, the crazy thing is here, people are saying EVs are horrible in ice conditions or freezing conditions. But you literally have Norway, which is one of the coldest in one of the coldest areas really on the planet, right? And they are like 95% electric as far as what's being sold into the country now. So, but any thoughts on when you guys saw this metric? I mean, were you shocked? Not shocked?
Well,
94 is. Oh, go ahead, Joe. You go first.
Okay, so yeah, 94 is pretty staggering. What's funny is they have a goal set for 2030, and it looks like they're going to eclipse that before then, which is I think Tony Seba kind of predicted we would be where we are right now. So that's very interesting. But yeah, what Norway is doing is a good test bed for the rest of the world, and hopefully people are taking notice, because you get a lot of Jeff's favorite word, capitulation, from all of the other automakers, and they're they're backtracking and doing whatever they can to kind of get out of it. You see what's happening with Volkswagen and all this stuff. We'll get into that later, but it's not electrification, it's the vehicles that you're making. You know what I'm saying? It's not that people don't want to go electric. It's just that, for one, it's education. You got to give people the right information about electrification, and you got to make good vehicles. So I think it's very interesting, and that's a very telling, especially knowing that the Model Y is like number one over there as well.
So yeah, 94% is outrageous. It's ridiculous. How did you get that high? They don't even have every class of vehicle covered yet. And there are going to be use cases that are going to be harder to electrify that don't make as much sense. What they do have going for them is they're not they're not waging any trade wars. If you make a good electric car anywhere in the world, you can sell it there. And they're happy to buy it. They're happy to put it on the road. And it is because of early movers, it is because of early adopters that the rest of us can enjoy low prices. If it wasn't for all the people buying, $100,000, $130,000 Model S's and X's, we wouldn't have a $35,000 to $38,000 Model 3. You can't get there without taking those steps. And because electric vehicles are so much simpler, because there's so many fewer parts, because battery prices are still coming down, there's room for EVs to get even more affordable over the coming decade, thanks in huge part to early adopters. And that's what I think we're seeing.
I would say that, while on the one hand it is really exciting, I also want to just point to some statistics or some facts that help us to put it in context and not be quite as enthusiastic about it. So one is that they've achieved this transition through both a lot of carrots for people to buy EVs, and then a lot of sticks for people who want to buy ICE vehicles. Whatever you want to say about that. But this is not necessarily just the EV technology winning on its merits purely over ICE vehicles. And so this is kind of an early indication of an overall trend that I do believe is going to play out over time, is that we will see, EVs just basically dominate ICE vehicles almost in every niche on a cost and technology basis. But we're not quite there yet. Like Brian mentioned, there's a lot of vehicle types that are difficult to do that in. And so that is something that will come. And then the other thing is that I'm not sure what percentage of those vehicles were also hybrid or plug-in hybrid in Norway. So if anyone knows what that percentage is, that helps us to put this statistic in context a little bit further. But it is exciting to see where we're at now with the penetration of EVs in Norway. And like I said, while it is probably one of the markets that's earliest to reach a milestone like this, it does signify an overall trend that does move in this direction over time.
Yeah, I think you make some good call outs, Hans, on that. So yeah, I think it's always good to kind of make sure, you look at it holistically. I'm going to pass this one over to AI influencer number 42. We can't hear you, Joe. You're mute.
Hey, what's up? Yeah, I've done my due diligence in the AI realm. I do what I can. So Tesla has been stricken with brand damage, and we all know this. Nobody wants the vehicles. Everybody's selling their vehicles. But according to
And their stock.
and their stock, everybody's selling their stock. So
Shout
according
out
to
to Fred.
S&P, you know what's wild about this is I literally was at an event this past weekend, and there was a guy who walked up to me and he was telling me like this very thing, and I had just added this to our chat, so I had it pulled up, and I was like, that's not necessarily true. He goes, yeah, I know everybody's selling, and I was like, well, according to this report, there's things are not so bad as it seems. Like Tesla's still number one as far as brand loyalty goes, and I think that says something. I think like especially on X, we're in a bubble and we kind of see these things in a vacuum, right? Where it seems like, oh man, everybody hates Elon and everybody loves Elon, and but in the broader spectrum of the world, like I can't tell you how many times a day people approach me and wonder what the heck it is that I'm driving. And you would think that everybody knows what a Cybertruck is by now, but it's just not on people's radar like that. And I think that goes along with the whole adoption thing, right? We are looking at people that don't even know certain EVs are out versus what is available to them to even purchase. So to think that they're going to transition to EVs when they don't even know that there are these type of EVs is kind of like, we kind of have our heads in the sand in that regard. So I look at that and I look at this with the brand loyalty, and it's just like, man, once people start knowing about Tesla and knowing about like just EVs in general, like this is just going to get bigger and bigger and more.
Well, I would say that there is brand damage. I've met people who are just furious now. They won't buy another, or now they're on the fence, whatever. But that's also temporary. When the big price drop happened last year, there was a lot of murmur in the darker parts of social media where people were saying, "Yeah, the guy I really don't like him, but $5,000 less. I mean, there's nothing in the price range. It's such a good car." On the drive up here, I saw a bunch of Cybertrucks just on the highway. They're real now. They're in your face. They're hard to argue with, and you can't ignore that. What happens when Elon gets Comp Plan 3? Let's get Comp Plan 2 behind us. That's still a work in progress. But when Comp Plan 3 comes, I hope to see the same thing we saw with 1 and 2, which is impossible milestones. And when you hit them, you get an outrageous amount of pay. Maybe it's in the trillions. I don't know, and it doesn't matter. But the idea is that maybe then he'll moderate his tone. Maybe then he'll just go quiet. I don't know. Whatever he wants to do, he can do. He's a package deal. You got to take the good with the bad. Steve Jobs was not a very polite person, and if social media existed at the time, I'm sure we would have all been a little put off by some of his hotter takes. But you just got to deal with it.
And I would say that, the vast majority of car buyers, just like the vast majority of online shoppers, don't care about Jeff Bezos's political positions or, what he's doing, even though they'll say that, oh, I hate that guy, he's the worst ever. But, if you watch the delivery trucks that roll up to their house every day, well, you would realize that they still give him lots of money. So, I think it's the same thing with cars, that for the most part, there are on the fringes some people that this really matters for, and they are going to make different purchasing decisions made on that basis. But like Ross Gerber represents like 0.01% of the population of electric car buyers, and so you can't really let that overweight your perception of what the overall market is.
Yeah, I think everyone said really good points on various levels. I do think I agree, or the thing that comes to mind is like I agree with Joe in that probably the four of us, and more so probably some of us, right? Like Hans and Brian, how you guys are literally doing pretty much content every day. You're on a show or making your own shows. But we're really just sucked into this Tesla vacuum, and so I think it's easy to assume that some of the stuff or the loudest people that you hear is what everyone believes, and that's really what the whole point of mainstream media is too, right? It's like you think that the view of the majority of people is a certain thing or based on a certain headline, and as we've seen, at least since I've been following Tesla since 2018, it's the exact opposite. I do think, especially living in the Silicon Valley, there's brand damage as far as like, yes, there are those people who, as Brian was saying, who will not buy another Tesla, who've sold, and they typically tend to be the loudest. But is that everyone? No. Like I remember when I got, kind of like what Joe was saying, when I got my Cybertruck and I was driving it to Vegas and back in like February or March. People were coming up to me and just, man, I love what Elon's doing. Look at this truck. This thing is like next level. And so it's like there's always that kind of that balance. But I do think that, yes, the people that were kind of that cannot remove a product from a CEO, and like those two things, like same thing with Jeff Bezos or even like Tom Brady and like some of the decisions that they've made. I mean, literally, like Jeff Bezos is literally with a girl that he cheated on his ex-wife with. I mean, it's like Tom Brady, it's the same thing. The dude left his wife when she was pregnant. I mean, like with another girl. So it's just one of those things. It's like, if you are gonna, be true to those things, you can't have it both ways, right? Are you still a Tom Brady fan? Are you still, as we were saying before, it's like, Amazon's still delivering things to the front of your house. So it's just, but I do think that, yes, there has been from Elon being more vocal. Yes, I do think it's driven a couple people, but is that the vast majority? Not necessarily. It's probably, as we said, it's like that, maybe that 1% or whatever, maybe even at a high level, 5% of potential new buyers, but it's not 60-70%. I mean, otherwise you would see the results would speak for itself. But more importantly than all of that, even if someone doesn't buy a Tesla per se, Tesla is no longer, solely focused on car sales. They are here to build robots, AI, solve autonomy. That is what they're focused on. And ultimately, at least from what I've seen in Legacy Auto, they are going to be buying the software from Tesla no matter what. I mean, they don't have a path forward. They realize that they're going to be, number 3 to 10 in the market. They don't plan on being the bleeding edge technology. So they know that they're going to have to kiss the ring and end up buying the autonomy package. I mean, literally, we've had discussions with CEOs of companies, of these Fortune 500 companies, where they know what they are, they know what they're not. And so I do think at the end of the day, there is something to be said. We probably all have friends who are no longer buying a Tesla because of the fact of like something Elon said. But at the same time, like, I kid you not, once this new Model Y comes out, like the Model Y is already the best selling car in the world. But the new Model Y, what I've seen happen from the old Model 3 to the new Model 3, the car is night and day, and it is such a beautiful product. And I think that once people see this new Juniper Model Y, they're going to go bonkers over it, because again, you're talking, whatever, a young child to a teenager or adult, like this, the new Model 3 has matured in every facet. I mean, they have literally created such an amazing product, and I'm not just trying to oversell that, but I'm really looking forward to what's next. So yeah, I think it'll be a really interesting future ahead. So, but again, I think it's kind of like Apple. they're focused on, their services and everything else, their cloud services, all that stuff, and they're not as focused on iPhone sales, even though sure that's the majority of their revenue still, but they're focused on other things. All right, so Tesla Chan reported out Tesla China delivered 87,000 units in August. That's a 17% year-over-year growth, with domestic sales exceeding 63,000. In addition, Model Y's retail sales exceed 45,000 units, making it the most sold new energy vehicle per month. That is crazy. Tesla China is just killing it. And it looks like the majority of it is being sold in China as well, and not just necessarily being shipped elsewhere. And obviously, it sounds like even of that, more than half of the sales is easily the Model Y. So, but yeah, these stats are pretty staggering. China is continues to lead the way as far as not only production, but or they're doing a good job to really step up and lead production, but also too, a lot of people in China are buying Teslas. That's for sure.
It's going to be funny to see is how the sales go down once they are switching over the lines for the new Juniper, and how everybody's going to be like, oh man, it's falling down. It couldn't last forever, and it's like, you guys. That's gonna all those headlines. I'm just ready for it.
It's going to happen. There's going to be downtime when you switch over, but yeah, the improvements between old 3 and new 3 are ridiculous. If you haven't driven the new 3, you need to. It's such a refined drive. It's softer than a Model Y. It speed bumps don't feel like speed bumps anymore, and it's really an amazing vehicle. How do you get from number 1 to higher than number 1? A refresh like this is what it needs. And while the Model 3 still has, I guess you could argue, some room for improvement, maybe it could be cheaper, maybe it could be lighter. It's a very good car, and we're running out of room to improve. And the big thing on China is, we're looking at what is the full year volume going to be, and the answer has to be it can't be much higher than last year because we haven't added capacity. Shanghai is running at essentially capacity, above nameplate capacity. Fremont's been at capacity since forever, and then we've got some excess capacity in Berlin and Texas, and that's where any potential growth would need to come from. And you've got Cybertruck.
Yeah, no, for sure. Let's hit the next story. All right. So this was fun in the Tesla community yesterday. I did want to call out the fact that so Time Magazine, and they're owned. It's owned by Mark Benioff, who is the CEO of Salesforce. So he owns Time Magazine, and I believe him and Elon are friends. Correct me if I'm wrong. They're very cordial with each other. So he actually responded to one of my tweets about being like, where's Elon? He literally was like, hey, he showed like 4 different articles. He's like, we rotate people. Some of the people on this list, though, I'm like, I didn't even know they were doing AI stuff, right? Like, it's pretty, and maybe that's my own ignorance, but it's just, I thought that this was like, I don't know if they were just trying to, some of these people, I'm like, are they just throwing on random celebrities? Like, but either way, Joe will share in a quick second, what Elon responded to. But I think here it was hilarious that literally Elon, who is probably making the biggest impact, and who, if you think of like DeepMind and OpenAI, he literally donated $100 million to OpenAI. He's just done a lot of stuff advocating for AI, where literally his face should be up here every single time, even if it feels like it's constantly being reproduced. But Joe, what did Elon respond? I believe I forgot whose tweet it was, but
he responded to Sawyer after Sawyer posted a Time Magazine article. He said, magazines do not establish relevance, history does. I thought that was very poignant. Yeah. I mean, because then you have like all the history and the making of like what he's doing with SpaceX and everything like that. And I mean, yeah, you can mention OpenAI, but that cluster that he's created at Giga Texas is like one of the largest in the world. Like, I mean, there's just so much happening. And even if you don't want to put Elon on the face of everything, which I get because of right now how it is, there is a team of people under him that are doing great work. Like, you could have chosen any of those people from Tesla or from XAI, but they didn't.
Hans, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I was just gonna, point out, I guess Scarlett Johansson just has much better face recognition than someone like Sam Altman, or, like there's so many people that when you look at this thing, you're like, wait a second, like MKBHD, like I love MKBHD, but like he's a reviewer of AI. Is he the most influential person because he has spiked multiple AI companies? Is that the like what is the justification here for their selections? And I mean, ultimately, yeah, I think this is more about politics and just trying to, get normal, general, everyday Joe Schmo readers. Like, I've never once in all of my travels through AI land heard someone say, who's a great source for information on artificial intelligence? Time Magazine. So, it kind of is what it is.
Yeah.
I would say, I'd say, of course we have to include Scarlett Johansson if that's going to move a couple papers, but they were stretching so far to exclude. I mean, put him at 99. I saw, I think it was Cern Basher who said, "Oh no, he was at 101. He just missed the cut." Of course, but yeah, if you look at, I mean, if you want to ignore XAI, if you want to ignore Grok, look at what Tesla has. How many millions of vehicles AI enabled running in the real world right now? It's weird. It feels like they stretched so far to leave him out that I'm surprised none of us made the list.
Well, I'm number 42. I think that I think that one of the things to take note of is just the fact that it's a magazine. I don't know. I don't know when the last time I bought a magazine was.
No, it's for airports and hospital waiting room areas, and I mean, I don't know. I don't know. Remember the last time I saw a magazine for me to pick up, and I imagine Time must be a vanity project for him. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, we all know that, thankfully, well, not thankfully, but we all know that legacy media at the end of the day is dying. And so Time Magazine is just known for putting together groups of people and then being like, hey, look at the top 100 most influential people in fashion and all this other stuff. I still think it's very weird that they would not include either people from these companies or at least, even again, if he's 99 or 100, and even if it's just like his face is small because he's been in the list like 15 times, you can't just ignore like pretty much like the OG who's like making probably the biggest moves in this space. I mean, within a year after starting XAI, year and a half, the guy has the biggest like computer now online, or the most literally the most chips, like literally just GPUs and stuff. Like it's pretty crazy, I think. And again, I don't know how truthful. I saw some other thing where, Sam Altman was making a comment about how now XAI has more computation power than OpenAI. I mean, it's the amount of investment that's happening, because I think that's how Elon runs things, right? Is like he would rather have a small team and make a bunch of mistakes. But he's going to be the guy in the weeds. I mean, he was in Memphis, like I think before the Jordan Peterson Museum, the dude was in Memphis until like the early morning, putting together, the data center, or this literally this computer center just in freaking Memphis. And so I think that's the big thing here, is that Elon's time is very precious, and when he is working, which is literally like 90% of the time. I mean, I think maybe he's taking Sundays off, if that. But he's literally just working constantly. And so that's why you see these insane results. And when you see something like this stuff, it's just a little bit disheartening, because yeah, it's, like why this guy Elon, right? Like it's very few things like that people will be making such a big impact during their lifetime and then to be treated the way that they are. I think that's still like the thing that always rubs me the wrong way versus like it's not like Elon solved something and then 20 years later after he died, like he's like the next Albert Einstein, right? Like where he's being celebrated and all these other things. This guy, we all know what he's doing. I mean, this is just, it's insane to think about, you know, the stuff he's accomplishing with his company. So yeah. All right, Joe, AI influencer number 42.
So here you have, which I think is very cool. They're looking at an updated Model Y, the 6-seater configuration going to China, 7-seat configuration made in China going to Europe. So they are, even this is like on the heels of the other news that we know a change is coming, but they're still pumping out all these vehicles and everything as fast as they can because people want the vehicle and they want it in more configurations. So I just think that's really cool that they're just not resting on their laurels. You know what I mean? Like this is the number one selling vehicle in the world, and they could easily just like hang it up for like the next couple of years and then like do like a refresh, like, you know what I mean? Like at the 5-year mark or whatever, but they're just crushing it.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. You know how the Model Y continues to change. All right, so AI 3 versus AI 4. So again, these are the different computers, the hardware 3 and the hardware 4. What have you guys heard? Have you guys heard much about how these computers have compared? I've heard that they've been very similar. At least I think it was even Zach and and Omar who got together to compare apps, and they noticed that it was very similar. So, but have you guys heard much differences between hardware 3 and 4?
I haven't heard very much differences at all. Like everybody
I also
is impressed.
Yeah, JD did mention, because he has a hardware 3 Model S, and he has 12.5 on that as well. And he said to him it felt like there were some very minor differences between his hardware 3 performance and his hardware 4 performance. But yeah, very small, very de minimis. And I mean, that is basically what we expect at this point in time. I think this is something that gap will shrink over time instead of grow. As far as performance within a version, it might be that hardware 4 gets version 13 first, and then obviously that will be a gap in performance between hardware 3 and hardware 4. But once whatever the latest software is made backwards compatible with hardware 3, it should be within a couple of percentage points of the performance of the hardware 4 version.
Agreed. You're
For
muted.
Sure. Yep. All right, so we're gonna hit one or two more things, and then we'll have this new thing that we're gonna try, where it's like a quick, fast take of each panelist on various news stories. But our friends Bearded Tesla, Gary, Teslatino, and Nancy, they all went to the Arctic Ocean through probably not only some of the most remote areas in the world, but some of the most treacherous, like the Dempster Highway, to travel through that, and literally no charging infrastructure. So they brought 6 wall chargers that will go online over the next, I think, couple of months, if not sooner than later, because some of them actually were installed. Some of them were more of like a handoff. But you will be able to charge all the way up to the Arctic Ocean. Obviously, it's going to take you plan to charge overnight, but you'll be able to actually get up to the Arctic Ocean. So this was called the Arctic Cybertruck. Super cool. Huge supporter of all the stuff that they're doing. But congratulations to them.
Yeah, I don't think anybody would be wanting to like quickly try and take this journey. So I think when you're doing things like this, especially in the elements that you're dealing with, like you gotta like plan for downtime, plan to get yourself together and things checking on things and making sure things are right for the next trek of the journey. So I think it's pretty amazing what they did. I mean, just to make the journey is one thing, but then to do this, install an infrastructure so that people can go along after you is like a whole another level that they took it to, and I commend them for that, because this is just the beginnings of what we know to be the inevitable for electrification and everything. And in the know that they made this pathway is pretty dope. I'm not going.
Yeah, I'm not going. I would say they're the modern day equivalent of Johnny Appleseed, where they are blazing a path and making it better for those who come behind them. But I'm not surprised the Cybertruck did as well as it did. I expected it to do that well. I'm glad that it went as intended. But if you want to impress me, do it again with a Leaf.
Yeah, you're not doing that in the Leaf.
Yeah,
you're not surprised that the tow hitch didn't fall off?
That the whole thing didn't break in two, didn't shred itself asunder? No, I would be more surprised had it cleft in twine. But no, it's a capable vehicle. Everyone who's driven it actually knows that. Unless you're some influencer who gets your hands on one and doesn't even know how to use the app or charge it. So I mean, just crazy.
Probably the first time he ever owned the app, or downloaded the app. All right, so I'm gonna pass this one to Joe. Tesla has some great ideas.
I've never seen this before in my life. No, so with the Model S, especially with the Model S Plaid, this was one of the things that Tesla had done. They had the air tank was made to be a part of the structure of the vehicle for side impact and stuff like that. Sandy Monroe had done a video on it, and so I thought it was very interesting that the Autoline, who makes all these daily posts, and they follow Sandy or whatever, they just try to make it seem like, oh man, this is clever that, I mean, that Volvo is doing this. And it's like, yeah, well, they're doing a lot of things that Tesla has already led the pack on. And I added this the article over here with the EVs makers are making interesting manufacturing methods, because as we know with the Giga castings and everything, it's like this is something that people kind of made fun of, and of course, like all the internet people who are like so pro and they know everything about like manufacturing swore up and down that the castings were like the worst thing that ever happened. But then you see all these automakers that are like, yeah, no, this is a really good deal. It saves a lot of work. And Sandy Monroe has even pointed out that it's not even hard to work on. It's actually easier than it to work on this than it is to work on the stamp pieces. So yeah, I thought it was very cool. And just to know that, I mean, Tesla doesn't get a lot of credit for these type of things that they do and that they lead the charge on. So I just thought it was a good mention.
So Joe, tell us what this is.
This is the Upbeat. So this is our rapid news segment that we're going to try out. See how you guys fare this information.
So what do you want us to do?
I think we just go through it quickly, try to spend no more than like a minute or two on each topic, see what our takes are.
Okay, so we'll just I actually have not looked through each one of these things, so it's not like I've had a well, I don't want to. I was like, all right, because otherwise then I'd be but either way, do you want okay, so I'll just read it off and then get everyone's kind of like take on it. All right.
Yep.
Cool. Autonomous race cars. The world's fastest autonomous race cars are competing head to head at the IMS tomorrow. What is your guys' what's your guys' hot take on this? I guess it's happening today.
It's going to be cool. It's going to be fun. It's going to be slow at first and faster every year. Autonomous stuff always did that during the X challenges that they had. It's going to be great.
It's just cool to get students involved in building this technology early, because these are going to be people that end up as engineers in companies that are really moving the ball forward on this technology here over the next decade.
Yeah, I want to echo what Hans is saying, because I think that's the key point of what they're doing and why they're doing it, is because this technology isn't going anywhere. This is for future generations, and this is people who think outside of the box because they're young. They have minds that think differently than the older people. So I think this is like really cool. Okay, I want to actually watch it.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to this. I think it's yeah, it's gonna be it'll be interesting, especially like as we think of just the future of autonomy. I mean, obviously, I don't know. Obviously, this is a bunch of students who are showcasing this, and doing autonomy on obviously a racetrack is going to be a little bit simpler, because you could probably even actually input in what the track exactly is, versus like a true autonomy of like kind of like what FSD is, stick in the GPS coordinates and have it navigate around. But either way, yeah, this is exciting, especially, yeah, I think as Hans was saying and Brian was saying, it's just like, this is the future, really, and it's really exciting that this is inspiring the next generation. All right, next one. Colorado is too good at incentives. He looks like Spotted Model. Literally, I just cracked the 0 a month lease from Tesla on a rear-wheel drive Model 3 in Colorado. Note, this does not include gas savings. This does include gas savings, and without the gas savings, he has to pay a whopping $33 a month. Can anybody beat $0 a month on a loan? And you thought a $19 a month alone on a Leaf was good?
Yeah, I think it is too good. I think it is too generous. It won't last long at those prices. We love to see it. It's going to move a whole bunch of units across all brands in Colorado. But I'd rather see a smaller incentive that lasts longer rather than a huge one that is quickly depleted.
Yeah, Colorado has some crazy incentives that they have going on right now for a lot of their for the EVs, and I mean, this is just case in point. Their incentives are insane. Like, I mean, he was already gonna get a Leaf because it was gonna be so cheap, but it's like why do that to yourself, right?
I mean, I think this is the progressive's dream. EV power brought to you by weed.
Oh my gosh. Like, yeah, if you live in Colorado and you're buying a car and it's not a Tesla, unless obviously you're in a family situation where you need like an SUV, like an actual SUV, you should literally be buying a Tesla. I mean, $0 with gas savings, or even if you remove the gas savings, $33. Like, I mean, that's like not even one, like that's like a fourth tank of gas. You know what I mean? So it's just one of those things where if you live in Colorado, you are literally getting a steal. If you are buying a new car in Colorado and it's not a Tesla, or let alone like an EV, like with these incentives, you have bigger problems. Next one. All right. So our friends over at Redwood Materials, Redwood Grows, we've topped out our cathode factory, which will represent the U.S. first commercial supply of CAM. This building will produce 20 gigawatt hours of CAM annually. Eventually, will 5x its footprint at 100 gigawatt hours, enough CAM to power 1.3 million EVs annually. Wow.
Yeah, I think this is cool because what you're looking at is the recycling of batteries that people don't really realize, and Redwood Materials takes everything. You know, I mean, it's not just vehicle batteries that they recycle into production. Like they recycle a lot of batteries and everything into what could be cathode and anode materials. So I think it's pretty dope. I think it's just that that circle of life that's just gonna, like, I mean, you make an EV, it goes out, you know what I mean? You get rid of the car, you recycle the batteries, and you make the next EV using those same batteries, and it's pretty wild. Over 90% of the battery is reusable.
And the other 10% is glue and foam, and Redwood Materials, they are not going to hit their targets for a long time, and it's not because they lack the technology or the capacity. It's because batteries are very slow to come off the market. A battery that is not damaged is going to have a second life in off-grid, someone's cabin, maybe be put into an antique that's been retrofitted to be an EV. That's why recycling has been so slow to come online. It's because there's just no supply of them. They're still worth more than their mineral value on eBay today for old batteries for any vehicle.
I do just like to see, Zach Kirkhorn's continued efforts and hopefully continued success. This is a company that still is in its early growth phase, very strategically important for the overall ambitions of the renewable energy sector. But yeah, like Brian said, it's still very early because unlike what, people have said about Tesla batteries need to be replaced constantly, they actually don't need to be replaced hardly at all. And even when they do need to be replaced, they're still more useful than sending it to the scrapyard. And so that is, a negative for recycling at this point in the life cycle, but it's a positive because it shows us just how valuable this technology is and how robust these cells are over time.
Yeah, I think I agree with whatever. Thankfully, I've been going last because this was. But yeah, no, I'm pretty excited about what Redwood Materials is doing overall. It's great to see that their progress is happening. It's awesome that it's literally happening down the street or in the same area as the Tesla Gigafactory in Nevada. I think it's important to build because like I said, it's not gonna just be Tesla who's going to be, helping this transition. We need more people. So it's great that that Redwood Materials is helping pave that way. And we need all hands on deck to make this happen. So recycling batteries is one of them, but I do think that, it's going to take, as it was said, it's going to take a while for them to even hit their goals. Again, these lithium ion batteries on these Teslas, they end up lasting a very long time, let alone, having many issues, right? So some of them do, but still, it's important to make sure that they're recycled. Competition is coming. All right. The next gen Ford Mustang Mach-E won't go into production until 2028, and we won't see a brand new Maverick until 2020 or 2031. And then it looks like for Volkswagen, for the first time in 87 years of its operations, German automotive giant Volkswagen could close the production sites in Germany. Troubled VW also threatens further job cuts after savings plans stalled due to rising costs that have cut into profits. In the current situation, even plant closures can no longer be ruled out. Volkswagen employees have told this source. Brian, you want to kick us off?
Yeah, guys, what are you doing? What are you doing? It's great. The longer they wait, the more technology comes along for them to get to where they need to be easier. But at the same time, you're losing market share. You're losing a lot. The millions of EVs that are being sold that are not being sold by legacy, that is coming out of your total bottom line, Volkswagen, Ford, and others. Someone is going to sell those cars. Someone is moving those units right now, and it ain't you. And if you don't want to, you can say, well, I'm going to work some kind of protections deal with my people in my country, and that's going to save us. Great, but it's an international market, and you need to be able to sell cars that sell on the international market, and that ain't how you do it.
Yeah, I would echo what Brian said, and also add in that those people that are probably coming up in a number 2 and 3 slots are going to be Kia and Hyundai for sure, because they sell vehicles, and now they've got that new Hyundai N line that's out right now, and I mean it looks impressive. So the bad thing, and I think this is something that GM is also victim of, is Volkswagen bought any and everything, and they were buying every company, adding all trying to just buy up everything, and like they were throwing everything at the wall to see what sticks. And they spent a lot of money doing that. And I think GM did the same thing. We heard about the Lordstown, the early invest in Ford and Rivian. You know, I mean, like they were just like they were doing everything they possibly could. And so I think that I just remember all of the old sayings that people would say, like, man, once Legacy Auto starts making EVs, it's over because they already know how to make gas cars. And now we're just seeing like all this happen, and it's like, yikes.
I mean, the thing that I would say on this topic is expect a lot more hybrids. It's something that they're better at than EVs. It's something that they can make more money at than EVs. And so they're just going to extend this runway as long as they can. And the, unfortunate thing for them is that this is the rope that they're going to hang themselves with. But that is going to be the near-term strategy for these large companies.
Yeah, I mean, same story, new day. Legacy Auto will continue to struggle, and they have to pivot to hybrids because they can't make a profitable EV. And also, too, it's because they're also not holding to their guns. I think they're willing to not make big bets, despite what the market may say. And really just continue to pave the way, because again, hybrids are a hack at getting to EVs, right? We've had the Prius for decades now, and pretty much it feels like the Prius, it's just been around, and we've learned a lot from them. But it really was Tesla that pushed everyone even to hybrids. But it's like Tesla's not trying to push us halfway; they're trying to push us all the way over here. But Legacy Auto continues to just, I think, be sticking their head in the hole, and so I think there's going to be. We'll see where things end, but it's not going to be looking good. I mean, you're clearly seeing all of the writing on the wall. I would say I'm still surprised that no one has bought Rivian if they have the cash to do it. Right? Is the market cap isn't insane? You're not talking $100 billion company yet, right?
Right.
13 billion. I just looked up the market cap. Right? Like this is something Apple can come by, or who's not even an auto company, but there's stuff that these companies can do and build some stock purchases and go buy this company. So
Lucid would probably be a better buy for somebody like Apple, I would think. I don't know if they're actually going to do it. I don't think anybody's going to do it, but yeah, man, the capital that you could expend, and you're looking at probably like maybe 20, 30 billion versus like they've spent that in just the research alone like already, and they didn't buy the company. So it's very interesting.
Yeah, I'm looking up how much Lucid costs, and it's literally, what is this thing? I mean, you're talking 8 billion. That even seems too much. But all I'm trying to say is that
an $8 billion ticket to lose a bunch more billions of dollars.
Yeah. What is the price is $3.59 right now? $3.54, whatever it is. But yeah, I don't know. People need to get a clue. Either way, that was. What did you guys think of the Upbeat? Good, fun.
Yeah,
fun.
All right. Yeah, well, it's something Joe bringing his creativity into this. So thank you, Joe, for that. But yeah, let's it's 9 o'clock. Let's wrap up. It's been a big week. There's a lot happening in this month, clearly for Tesla AI. But again, please patronize our hosts here. They are tagged both on X and YouTube, so make sure to give them a follow, subscribe to them, support all of their hard work. But yeah, thank you, Brian, for being literally on the road and taking your call from Vancouver, and then Hans from the brave party that you're at right now. And then Joe, you should have been on the Time magazine. So either way, thank you guys, and everyone have a good week.
My cross to bear. Peace.